Close your eyes for a second and imagine the coast of Bahia at lunchtime. The air feels warm and salty, someone's laughing nearby, and from a simple kitchen comes this unmistakable perfume: sautéed onions turning sweet, garlic waking up in the pan, tomatoes melting down, and something golden and mysterious that seems to glow even before you see it. That's dend oil. And today, I'm bringing that feeling to your kitchen with one dish that's both elegant and deeply comforting: Bobó de Camarão, the creamy Bahian shrimp stew that tastes like a celebration but eats like a hug. Here's the little mystery I want to solve with you: how can a recipe with such humble ingredients feel so sophisticated on the tongue? It's not one single secret. It's a puzzle, and each piece matters. The shrimp, the cassava, the coconut milk, the dend, they're not competing. They're building layers, one after the other, until the whole thing turns silky, fragrant, and impossible to stop eating. Think of this recipe like assembling a scene. The foundation is cassava, also called mandioca, cooked until tender and then mashed into a puree so smooth it almost looks like velvet. That's what gives Bobó its body, its creaminess, its comfort. Then comes the aromatics: onion, garlic, tomato, bell pepper, all sautéed patiently until your kitchen starts smelling like you actually know what you're doing. And then, the most delicate clue in the whole story: the shrimp. They need speed and respect. A minute too long, and that tender bite turns rubbery. We're not letting that happen. If you're enjoying this kind of trip-through flavor, just give the video a like so I know to bring more Brazilian classics like this. And tell me in the comments, what's your biggest question about Brazilian food or Bahia specifically? Ingredients? Techniques? The history behind the dishes? Now, let's start with the first piece of the puzzle, because without it, there is no Bobó, the cassava, cooked just right, ready to become the creamy heart of the stew. The first piece of this puzzle isn't shrimp at all. It's mandioca, cassava, the quiet foundation that makes Bobó feel like comfort food even when the flavors taste elegant. Picture a pot of cassava simmering until the kitchen turns steamy and soft, that starchy, slightly sweet aroma rising as if it's announcing something good is on the way. When you pierce a chunk with a fork, it should give in without a fight. That's the moment you want, because if it's still firm in the center, your final stew won't be silky, it'll be stubborn. Now, a small detail that changes everything: cassava has that fibrous core running through it. Don't ignore it. As you drain the cooked pieces, take a second to pull out the tough strings and any hard bits. It's a simple step, but it's the difference between a luxurious spoonful and an unexpected chew that breaks the spell. Then we turn it into cream. You can mash it while it's warm, or blend it with a little cooking liquid until it becomes a smooth puree, thick, pale, and glossy, like a blank canvas waiting for color. And that's exactly what Bahia brings next: color, aroma, and warmth. If you've ever wondered why Bahian food feels like it's hugging you and waking you up at the same time, this is where the secret starts to show. Before we get there, though, I want to know you're with me. If this kind of recipe, traditional, comforting, but with a little mystery, speaks to you, tap like so I know to bring more Brazilian classics to your kitchen. And tell me in the comments, have you ever cooked with cassava before, or is this your first time? Because next, we're building the aromatic base: the sizzling onion, garlic, tomato, and pepper that turns the whole room golden in your imagination even before the dent hits the pan. Stay right here, because the next clue is where the dish starts to smell like Bahia. And once you smell it, there's no going back. If you enjoy cooking like this, step by step, piece by piece, subscribe, because the shrimp is coming in fast, and timing is everything. Now the first piece of our puzzle is already warm on the counter: cassava that's been cooked until it surrenders completely. When you poke it with a fork, it shouldn't fight back, it should break apart like a soft promise. I want you to look for the fibrous string in the center and pull it out while it's still hot. That tiny step feels simple, but it's the difference between a puree that turns silky and one that keeps surprising you with little threads. As you mash or blend the cassava, imagine the texture we're aiming for: not a thick, heavy paste, but a smooth base that can melt into a stew. If it looks too stiff, loosen it with a splash of the cooking liquid, just enough to make it glide. This is the foundation, and quiet, pale, and modest, but it's about to carry all the color and perfume of Bahia. Now we move to the pan, and the kitchen changes. Heat rises, the air gets fragrant, and the second piece clicks into place: the aromatic sauté. Onion goes in first and turns translucent, almost sweet. Then garlic, just long enough to wake up, no burning, because bitterness is a loud note we don't want in this song. Tomato follows, and you'll hear the gentle sizzle as it releases its juices, like the pan is answering back. Bell pepper comes in next, bringing that fresh, green brightness that keeps the dish from feeling too rich. Pause for a second right here. If you're enjoying how these aromas build, give this video a like, it helps me keep bringing Brazilian flavors to your kitchen. And tell me, have you ever cooked with cassava or dend oil before, or would this be your first time? Now, the shrimp. This is the most common mistake people make. They treat shrimp like stew meat. Don't. Shrimp wants speed and respect. When it hits the heat, it should turn just pink and curl softly, like a comma, not a tight little ring. 2-3 minutes, then stop. We're not finishing the dish yet, we're protecting tenderness. In the next step, we'll bring the pale cassava back into the pan, add coconut milk, and finally the golden key, dend. That's when the whole puzzle becomes one creamy, glowing picture, so stay with me, and if you want more Brazilian recipes with the stories behind them, subscribe so you don't miss what happens when this stew turns truly Bahian. Now the puzzle starts to feel like it has a picture. The cassava is already cooked and soft, almost surrendering when you press it. Mash it while it's still warm, then bring in a splash of the cooking liquid and work it until it turns into a smooth, pale cream. This is the quiet base of Bobó, the part that doesn't shout, but holds everything together. In Bahia, this texture is comfort with a little elegance. It's the difference between a stew that's just tasty and one that feels silky on the spoon. In a wide pan, heat a little oil and let the aromatics take the stage. Onion first, slowly, until it goes translucent and sweet. Garlic follows, just long enough to perfume the air without browning. Then tomatoes and bell pepper, and you'll see the pan change color, going from sharp and raw to glossy and inviting. As it cooks down, it smells like a market morning, ripe produce, warm sun, and the promise of lunch. If you hear a gentle sizzle instead of a frantic crackle, you're right where you need to be. Here comes the clue a lot of people miss. The shrimp are not meant to cook forever in Bobó. They're the delicate piece of the puzzle. Season them, then let them kiss the heat quickly, just until they turn pink and curl into that soft C shape. The moment they look done, they are done. Leave them too long and you trade tenderness for that rubbery bite that makes you work too hard for your dinner. If you've ever wondered why restaurant Bobó melts in your mouth and homemade sometimes doesn't, this is usually it. Now we reunite the pieces. The cassava puree goes into the pan, and suddenly everything becomes creamy. Pour in coconut milk and watch the color lighten and soften, like the whole dish exhales. Then dend oil, golden, unmistakable, slides in and turns the stew into Bahia itself, warm and sunny, with a deep aroma that feels both new and familiar. Keep the heat gentle, just a simmer, and stir until it turns glossy. If you're enjoying this kind of step-by-step mystery, tap like, tell me, what's your biggest question about Brazilian food? And stay with me, because the final touch is where Bobó becomes unforgettable. Now comes the moment where the puzzle pieces finally start locking into place, and your kitchen smells like it learned Portuguese. The cassava puree is waiting, pale and smooth, and the sauté is already glossy and alive in the pan. Before we combine anything, let's solve the most delicate clue in this whole dish, the shrimp. Slide the shrimp in only when your base is hot and ready, and listen for that first quick sizzle. It's not a long conversation. You're not trying to cook the shrimp to death, you're just introducing it to the heat, letting it turn opaque at the edges, picking up the perfume of garlic, tomato, and pepper. If you see it curling tightly into little rings and turning firm, that's the warning sign. The most common mistake is thinking shrimp needs time. It doesn't. Shrimp needs respect and timing. As soon as the shrimp looks barely cooked, bring in the cassava puree. The pan changes character instantly, like velvet falling over the whole scene. Stir slowly, scraping the bottom, and you'll feel it thicken and hold together. Now add coconut milk, and watch the color soften into a warm, creamy gold. This is where Bahian comfort turns sophisticated. Coconut milk doesn't shout, it rounds edges, it makes everything taste calmer and deeper at the same time. And then, the final key, dend oil. Just a few spoonfuls, and the stew becomes unmistakably Bahian. The aroma is earthy and sunny, almost like warm spices without being spicy. The color deepens to that iconic golden orange that looks like late afternoon. Keep the heat gentle. You're not boiling, you're coaxing. A quiet simmer is enough to marry everything into one silky, cohesive spoonful. Taste. Adjust salt. If it feels a little tight, a splash of coconut milk loosens it back into that spoon-coating creaminess. Finish with fresh cilantro, not as decoration, but as a bright, green exhale. If this is making you hungry, take a second to like the video so I know you want more Brazilian comfort classics like this. And tell me, what's your biggest question about Brazilian food or Bahia specifically? If you're enjoying this puzzle-style journey, subscribe, because in the next moment we're going to plate it the right way and talk about what to serve alongside so the whole meal feels complete. And just like that, the last piece clicks into place. The pot is quiet now, but the stew still moves in slow, lazy bubbles, as if it's breathing. That golden color from the dend oil glows against the creamy cassava, and when you stir, it feels like satin, thick, smooth, and comforting without being heavy. Bring the spoon close and you'll catch it: sweet shrimp, warm garlic, the freshness of tomato and pepper, and that unmistakable coconut aroma that makes the whole kitchen smell like a seaside lunch in Bahia. Now comes the moment that separates good from wow. Turn the heat down until it's barely simmering and add the shrimp only for the time it needs to turn opaque and curl gently. Not tight and tense, just relaxed, like it's settling into the sauce. If you're thinking, maybe 2 more minutes, don't. That's the trap. Overcooked shrimp doesn't forgive, and Bobó is all about tenderness. When the shrimp is ready, you finish with cilantro, and suddenly the dish lifts bright, green, and alive. I like to serve it in a wide bowl so the surface has room to shine. A simple white rice on the side, maybe farofa if you want that little crunch, and you're done. But take a second before you eat. Look at what you built: cassava transformed into velvet, aromatics turned into sweetness, coconut milk rounding every edge, then bringing depth and color. That's the puzzle of Bobó de Camarão, nothing complicated on its own, but together it becomes something that feels both elegant and deeply familiar. If this video helped you, give it a like so I know you want more recipes like this. No pressure, just a small sign. And tell me in the comments, what's your biggest question about Brazilian food or Bahia specifically? Is it dend, cassava, seafood, or a dish you've heard about but never tried? If you'd like to keep traveling through Brazil one recipe at a time, subscribe and come cook with me again, because the next mystery is already waiting on the stove.